gay Hollywood and art house legend Udo Kier has died at 81. His partner Delbert McBride confirmed the news to Variety.
When talking about actors who have left a mark in the movie industry, Udo Kier's name must be mentioned. But what no one expected was how his final moments would unfold. This is a man whose career stretched continents, yet the way it all ended left many in shock. He had lived quietly until those last moments came and changed everything. And now, after his passing, some surprising truths have come to light. What are the things we're only just finding out about him now? Join us as we uncover how Udo Kier lived before his death. The heartbreaking truth behind Udo Kier's final moments. Udo Kier spent his last days in Palm Springs, living in a quiet, almost lonely way that felt strange for someone who had once been the wild, unforgettable face of so many films. He walked around his home slowly, caring for his garden and his animals like they were his only real company. Even though he had acted in over 200 movies, he moved through those final days with a soft silence, as if he knew the world had already started turning without him. Friends said he still tried to keep himself busy, but there was a heaviness around him, the kind that comes when a person begins saying goodbye before anyone realizes it. But what many believe made his final moments even more heartbreaking will surprise you. And it's something you'll definitely want to know. Udo was still creating, still dreaming, still trying to leave just one more piece of himself behind. He had projects waiting for him, roles he was excited about, and ideas he never got the chance to finish. It felt unfair, almost cruel, that someone so full of life would fade away so quietly. His death came suddenly, leaving people wondering if he saw it coming, or if he simply wasn't ready. And that's the part that hurts, knowing a man who gave the world so much slipped out of it with a quiet that didn't match the fire he carried his whole life. But then, some believe that Udo's final moments were shaped long before the spotlight ever found him. They say his early life held secrets, that his childhood was marked by strange experiences, quiet pain, and unanswered questions. Could those hidden moments have influenced how his story ended? It's a theory that has sparked curiosity and controversy. Was Udo's end truly unexpected, or were the signs buried in the story of his past? Let's find out. Udo Kier was born Udo Kierspe on the 14th of October 1944. That is the basic beginning of his life, and it is one of the few details that is publicly confirmed without dispute. His birth took place in Cologne, also known as Köln, in Germany. At that time, the war was still ongoing. One factual detail tied to his birth is that the hospital where he was delivered was destroyed shortly after he was born. His mother was Tekla Kierspe, born in 1908. She worked as a seamstress, which was a common job, especially in a time when people repaired clothing frequently and relied on tailoring services more than they do today. She raised him alone. Her relationship with his biological father did not continue after Kier was born. He already had a wife and 3 children, and he left, so Kier was raised entirely by Tekla. He did not grow up with the 3 children from his father's other household. Udo Kier has said in various interviews that he never knew his father, and that absence remained throughout his childhood. He spent his childhood in the Mülheim district of Cologne. That was the environment he knew. At the time, the city was still recovering from wartime damage, and his mother raised him with limited financial resources. There is nothing more dramatic to add to that. Many families in Germany during those years lived with very little. Kier's situation fit into that general pattern. A small household, 1 parent, and a modest life shaped by the economic conditions of the period. Religion played a part in his routine as a boy. He worked as an altar boy and also sang as a church chorister. This was not unusual for children in Catholic regions of Germany. He has also spoken about being interested in performance as a child. When Udo was young, he enjoyed dressing up and copying entertainers like Katharina Valente, who was popular in Germany at the time. It wasn't serious or part of any training, just something he did for fun. Like many kids, he liked to imitate singers and performers he saw on TV. After finishing school, he didn't go into acting right away. Instead, he got a regular job. His first step was training as a wholesale merchant. Kier worked in a tool wholesale shop where he learned how to manage stock. Later, he worked on an assembly line, including at a Ford factory in Cologne. The work was standard and involved typical tasks in car production. At the time, many people had similar jobs. For him, it was just a way to earn money. During his teenage years, Kier discovered that he could earn money through fashion modeling. People noticed his features' pale skin and green-blue eyes, which were considered suitable for mannequin work, as it was called. Then, modeling gave him opportunities outside the factory, and it paid better than some of the other work available to him. Around the age of 16, he met Rainer Werner Fassbinder. At that point, neither of them was famous. The two became friends. This friendship would later become relevant when Fassbinder became a major figure in German cinema, but at the time it was just a personal connection between two teenagers. When Udo Kier turned 18, he made the decision to move to London. His reason for moving was straightforward. He went there to study English. He also intended to pursue clerical work, which was a practical career path for someone wanting stable employment. Moving abroad for language study and job opportunities was not unusual for young Europeans in the 1960s. London offered more chances for people interested in office work and for those wanting to improve their English. So Kier went. There was no guarantee of anything beyond that. He was simply taking a step toward widening his options. When Udo Kier moved to London in his late teens, his original plan was to study English and acting. Not long after arriving, he was spotted in a coffee shop, and that chance moment changed his life forever. That chance led to his first film role, and this marked the true beginning of Udo Kier's journey in film. But there's more. We're about to reveal something most people never knew about his early career. Stay tuned. How Udo Kier began his career. Udo Kier's career began in a way he never planned. He went to London in the mid-1960s just to study English, not to look for auditions or chase fame. But while he was there, someone noticed his striking appearance and offered him a small role. That moment pulled him into acting without him chasing it. He took the opportunity, tried it out, and realized he fit naturally into the work. It wasn't something he had dreamed of. Acting simply found him. And he stepped into it because the door opened at the right time. Those early roles placed him in European art films, where his presence started gaining attention. These films did not make him a star, but they made the right people aware of him. Directors in the European art house scene liked fresh faces with interesting qualities, and Kier had that. He kept appearing in small roles that slowly built his visibility. It was gradual, but it positioned him among filmmakers who later became central to his long career. He wasn't pushing for fame. He was simply taking the roles offered and learning the industry as he moved forward. His real breakthrough came in the early 1970s when he worked with Andy Warhol's circle. The films Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula changed everything for him. These were not ordinary films. They were bold, unconventional, and quickly became cult favorites. Suddenly, Kier was known internationally, and people began linking his face with those unusual, daring stories. These roles did not just give him exposure. They shaped how audiences and directors viewed him. He became someone who could carry strange, intense characters without forcing anything. This recognition pushed him deeper into the horror world. After the Warhol projects, horror directors started casting him because he brought something different to the screen. His expressions, his tone, his calm but unsettling presence made him perfect for characters who didn't fit the usual mold. His popularity in horror grew naturally because he kept taking roles that matched his strengths. As more films came his way, major European directors took interest in him. He worked with Rainer Werner Fassbinder, Lars von Trier, Valerian Borowczyk, and Dario Argento. These collaborations were not just about adding names to his resume. They helped build his reputation as a serious actor who could handle experimental stories as easily as popular roles. Directors knew he was dependable and open to artistic risks. This period solidified his standing in European cinema. But just when it seemed like he had reached his peak, something unexpected happened. A twist that would take his career far beyond what anyone imagined. By the late 1980s and 1990s, Kier began appearing more often in American films. Roles in My Own Private Idaho and Armageddon introduced him to the United States audiences in a stronger way. He wasn't trying to reinvent himself for Hollywood. He simply continued doing the kind of roles he was good at. American directors appreciated that he brought his European experience and distinct style with him. His presence in Hollywood grew steadily because he remained consistent, and his performances worked well in both big and small films. Over time, Kier became known for playing unusual characters. Directors liked him because he could turn even the smallest roles into something memorable. This ability made him a strong choice for supporting roles that required personality rather than the typical leading man image. And that changed everything. His repeated collaborations with Lars von Trier gave him another boost. Films like Breaking the Waves, Dogville, and Melancholia kept him present in discussions among newer generations of film lovers. These roles showed his range, proving he could take on both quiet and intense characters. Von Trier's films reached wide audiences, and Kier's involvement in them kept his name familiar, even as the film industry changed over the years. Television later became another platform for him. He took roles in European and American series, including Berlin Station. These roles were straightforward, but useful in keeping him visible. He didn't switch to TV for reinvention. He simply added it to the long list of places where he could work comfortably. A major part of Kier's global career came from his ability to act in multiple languages. He switched between German, English, French, and more without difficulty. This gave him an advantage because filmmakers from different countries could cast him without worrying about language barriers. It also widened the types of stories he could join, making him active across Europe, the United States, and beyond. Alongside film and television, he also built a voice acting career. His voice carried the same outstanding quality as his on-screen presence, and that made him suitable for animated projects and video games. These roles allowed him to show another side of his talent, expanding the ways audiences could encounter his work. Independent American directors especially continued to use him in memorable roles. Films like Shadow of the Vampire and Downsizing proved that Kier could still deliver impactful performances even when the roles were small. Then, in 2021, Kier received a new wave of recognition with Swan Song. For the first time in years, he took on a lead role that highlighted his emotional depth. It was a quiet performance, but a powerful one, and people responded strongly to it. After more than 50 years in the business, Udo Kier's career stands out because of its steady growth and its global reach. He moved through horror, art films, and voice work without losing the qualities that made him unique in the first place. Although he made waves across the film world, Kier's journey hasn't been without its shadows. Behind the scenes, he faced challenges, some rooted in his early childhood, others that followed him throughout his career. Keep watching as we uncover the side of Udo Kier that rarely makes the headlines. The struggles behind Udo Kier's success. Udo Kier's challenges started at a very tender age, long before he ever knew what acting was or imagined a future in film. His life began under circumstances marked by survival and uncertainty, and those early difficulties set the tone for the many obstacles he would face throughout his life. Udo Kier was born during World War II, a period when German cities were bombed relentlessly. Just after his birth, the hospital where his mother delivered him was hit during one of those air raids. The building was destroyed, and the survival of both mother and child was largely due to timing and luck. Growing up in post-war Germany came with its own set of difficulties. Cologne was badly damaged, and families lived in a country trying to rebuild from rubble. Food was limited, buildings were still scarred from the war, and entire communities were struggling to re-establish stability. For a child, this created an atmosphere of uncertainty. Kier grew up in a setting where nothing was easy or guaranteed, and he later acknowledged that the environment shaped how he viewed life. His hometown did not give him access to acting opportunities or exposure to the performing arts. There were no theater programs he could naturally fall into, no film schools nearby, and no creative pathways available to a young boy with an interest he hadn't even fully discovered yet. If he wanted to pursue anything related to language or cinema, he had to leave his familiar environment. Even the decision to leave home to study English in London was already a challenge, because it meant stepping into a completely different world without clear direction or security. When he eventually found himself involved in film, Kier entered the industry without the benefit of formal training. He had often admitted that he never wanted to be an actor. Many actors have years of education, mentors, and structured programs that guide their development. Kier had none of that. Every skill he gained came from observing others on set. Competing with trained actors while relying solely on instinct required confidence, even when he didn't always feel prepared. It was a challenge that influenced every early role he took on. As he began to appear in films, another difficulty surfaced. His early roles in experimental and horror movies quickly gave him the image of someone who was best for unusual, intense, or disturbing characters. While these roles helped him become recognizable, they also confined him. Casting directors often overlooked him for popular roles because they already associated him with a particular style. Breaking out of such a narrow category required patience and persistence, and it took years before he was considered for roles outside that box. A large portion of his early work came from low-budget European productions. These films often had unpredictable schedules, limited financial resources. Shooting conditions could be uncomfortable, and payments were not always consistent. While these roles kept him active, they did not always increase his financial stability. The lack of large budgets also meant that safety standards, especially in earlier decades, were not always as strict as they are today. His move abroad introduced new challenges. Working in the UK and the US meant adjusting to different cultures, expectations, and production styles. He had to navigate auditions in a language he was still mastering and prove that he could adapt to various creative demands. This adjustment went beyond a language barrier. It included building networks from scratch and handling the pressure of being an outsider in the industry. In Hollywood, he faced even more limitations. As a foreign actor with a distinct accent and unique appearance, Udo Kier often found himself placed in very specific roles. The industry at the time did not offer many opportunities for popular roles to non-American actors unless they fit a narrow image. This meant he had to accept roles that didn't necessarily move his career forward simply to stay active. The challenge wasn't due to lack of ability, but that is not all. Another ongoing challenge was managing a career that stretched across several continents. Kier frequently worked in Europe, the United States, and Asia, moving from project to project. Long flights, shifting time zones, changes in climate, and irregular schedules became part of his routine. Over the years, these conditions affected his energy levels. He often dealt with jet lag and exhaustion from continuous travel. Kier's career came with real physical challenges. He has spoken about feeling tired from non-stop work. Over time, this led to back pain and the usual stress that comes with aging. But beyond all the challenges he faced, there's something else about Udo Kier that continues to surprise many: his private life. For decades, he has kept details about his relationships and marital status out of the spotlight. This silence has sparked endless speculation. Did Udo Kier ever marry in secret, as some believe? Or has he simply chosen a path of quiet independence? Stay tuned, because what we're about to uncover may just reveal one of the most guarded parts of his life. What they never told you about Udo Kier's personal life. Udo Kier lived most of his life with a level of privacy that was almost unusual for someone in the film world. While many actors built public identities that included romantic partners, breakups, or marriages that made headlines, Kier kept his personal life sealed. He rarely commented on relationships, and he never turned his private affairs into part of his public image. Over the years, this silence created a kind of mystery around him. Fans often tried to piece together bits of information from interviews or red carpet appearances, but Kier never offered anything that revealed who he dated, whether he was ever in a serious relationship, or what companionship meant to him. As his career grew across Europe and later in the United States, one thing remained constant: he never married. There is no record of a spouse at any stage of his life, no sign of an engagement, and no hint that he ever came close to forming a legally recognized partnership. For someone with a career that stretched for more than 5 decades, this absence stood out. But Kier seemed completely comfortable with it. His life choices were deliberate, not rushed, and he never chased the traditional path of settling down, buying a home for a family, or building a domestic structure that matched society's expectations. He found stability in his work, not in marriage. What made Udo Kier's private life more intriguing was that he did not only avoid marriage, he avoided public relationships altogether. No romantic partner was ever introduced to the media. No tabloid was able to track him with a companion. And no interview ever revealed a past lover, a long-term partner, or even a brief public romance. If he dated at all, he made sure that no part of it could be traced. This complete separation between his emotional world and his public life made him one of the most enigmatic figures in both Hollywood and European cinema. Even some filmmakers who worked with him for years said they never heard him speak about being in love or navigating the challenges of a relationship. It was as though he had built a wall around that part of himself, and only he knew what was on the other side. Much of his approach came from his personal philosophy. Kier valued independence in a way that shaped his entire identity. Those who worked closely with him over the decades often described him as someone who enjoyed his own company, someone who needed space to think, and someone who placed creativity above emotional attachments. He embraced freedom not as a temporary phase, but as a deep belief that guided how he lived. He loved the idea of waking up and deciding everything in his day without accommodating another person's needs or routines. That independence also allowed him to travel, accept unexpected film roles, and engage with directors from countries he had never visited before. Over time, a common belief grew in the film industry that Kier stayed out of marriage because he felt it would distract him from acting. He was constantly moving, shifting between film sets in Germany, Denmark, France, the US, and many other regions. Sometimes he shot several films in one year, jumping from genre to genre without slowing down. This pace made it almost impossible to build the stable lifestyle that marriage often requires. Those who observed him believed that Kier avoided domestic life because he knew it could compromise the spontaneity he enjoyed as an actor. But whether this belief is accurate remains open to interpretation. Kier never publicly confirmed that marriage would have interfered with his work. He did not state that relationships were a distraction, nor did he suggest that his single life was intentionally designed to protect his career. Some colleagues believed he simply preferred freedom. Others felt that his artistic mindset shaped his lifestyle so strongly that traditional domestic choices never appealed to him in the first place. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Kier might have enjoyed companionship at certain points in his life, but never felt the need to formalize it or make it public. His silence left room for speculation, yet it also protected him from the pressure to explain himself. But then, there are some surprising details about Udo Kier that few people have noticed. He was not alone in choosing this path. Many of his colleagues, particularly in the European art film scene of the 1970s and 1980s, also led single lives. Their lives revolved around film festivals, scripts, auditions, experimental projects, and long periods on the road. It was a lifestyle that demanded flexibility, and marriage did not always fit into that model. Kier belonged to this generation of artists who saw their careers as their primary commitment. Udo Kier's choice becomes clearer when compared with figures like Greta Garbo. Garbo, one of the most iconic actresses of the 20th century, famously never married and kept her romantic life hidden from the world. Like Kier, her privacy inspired countless rumors, but she never allowed the public to step into her inner world. Her dedication to her own independence mirrors Kier's, showing that this lifestyle was not unusual among actors who valued creative freedom. The public speculated for decades about Garbo's romantic life, yet she remained unbothered, much like Kier, who allowed speculation to exist without responding to it. There were also actors like Jeremy Brett, whose life showed another version of this connection between work and personal ties. Brett had married earlier in his life. Yet as his career grew more intense, his personal life faced deep challenges. His later years showed how overwhelming the demands of acting could become, especially for performers deeply committed to their craft. While Kier never married at all, both men shared an unwavering devotion to acting that shaped their emotional choices. Even the legendary James Dean reflected a similar life trajectory. Dean never married, and those close to him believed he was too deeply involved in his work to settle into a stable domestic life. His quick rise to fame and his obsession with artistic expression created a lifestyle where long-term relationships would have been difficult. Even though his life was sadly short, the way he focused more on his career than on starting a family is something many people later noticed in Kier's own life, too. Udo Kier's independence was also supported by his financial stability. He worked consistently for decades. His earnings across these varied roles added up, and by the time he passed away, his net worth was reported to be around $10 million. This security allowed him to maintain the lifestyle he preferred, one without financial dependency, shared responsibilities. In his final years, Kier settled in Palm Springs, a quiet and serene location that suited his personality perfectly. Since he never married and had no children, Kier formed a different kind of support system in his later years. When he passed away at the age of 81, his final days reflected the same lifestyle he had always chosen. He didn't make any big changes later in life, didn't try to start a family, and never spoke publicly about having any regrets. There has been speculation about why Udo Kier never married. Why do you think he chose to stay single? Share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.